Hey, it's our second time recording the top 20 video game music space themes because of a crazy one Prince suggested. We're going to start off with something more spacey. Right now you're listening to the Mass Effect map theme. We're going to go into a pick by Chris called Starship Phoenix from Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal. Alrighty. I think very spacey in the way that it feels kind of, it does feel, as I think somebody in the chat said it much better than I could. Chris, it's a grand kind of reverence towards space with an element of proclaiming dominance over it too. Absolutely. It's sort of like it sees the great power, it lets those strings kind of rise up with the horns, the low horns, but then it wants to kind of dominate with this like kind of pulsating, ever-present forward momentum that says, we are definitely in control. Sort of like a villain is rising and you know you're going to stop them, or perhaps the main character is sort of on their way and like they've like things are dour and now they've got this Starship Phoenix and they're ready to kick some ass. So very nice. I really, really liked it. That was good. Excellent choice. All right, let's move on to a pick from Claudio. This first one is from DuckTales. NES, a classic track. This is called The Moon something. What is it? The moon what? The moon friggin' what? The moon theme. Moon theme. I saw a T, I couldn't guess the word. It was theme. Duh. All right, that was DuckTales, Moon Theme. This is a pretty famous track. Probably because just the immense achievement of figuring out something like that on the NES hardware. Shovel Knight definitely influenced by this one. Yeah, I totally agree, Steve Flon. Rudy calls it very optimistic. And definitely one of the best licensed games. I mean, the problem with where the licensed games got a really bad reputation on the NES is because I think it was LGN was just buying up games and making them as cheap as possible and never really thinking. But like the platforming in this game is really solid. Took you to adventurous places. It wasn't just a Mario clone. I mean, none of those games ever matched the warmth of Mario. The vibrancy of it with that limited color palette was always a big challenge. But DuckTales definitely, I mean, it's Capcom, right? And Capcom is definitely one of the most underrated game developers I can think of. When they just don't seem to get matched up and alongside the names like Nintendo and Square. LGN is the one, yeah, Angry Video Game Nerd has a continuing rivalry with. Because as kids, you went out and bought these games, so you go, oh, a Wolverine game, oh, an X-Men game. And it'd be by LGN, and it'd be fucking dog shit. LJN. Well, in French, you say J instead of J. So I blame that, my Quebecois. Anyways, yeah, they were terrible because those games, sometimes it was like, they'd almost be impossible to beat. It was like there's no forethought into anybody actually playing them. But what a great track. I wish I knew who composed it. Maybe it was just somebody off that awesome Capcom team. The Capcom sound theme team. All right, DuckTales. Way to go. That was really, really nice. Rudy, this is one of your picks. Rudy says most of my picks are more on the wonders of space, kind of like an admiration than being in space itself. This first one is from Samarost 3, called Taste of Tea, Cosmic Version. There's a nice build-up in the beginning. 150 starts your favorite part, then around 314 is the peak. All right, well, we'll switch over to 150, and we'll get you there. Man, that is pretty powerful. As you can see, this game is a very, very incredibly detailed and beautiful visual adventure. I guess you'd say it's sort of like a point and click, sort of a very, very updated and gorgeous take on a very old style of gameplay with a lot of puzzles and clicking around, but such an emphasis on the visuals. Just utterly gorgeous game, and a really definitely powerful vibe to it. Super epic, really slow percussion that hits hard and has a bit of like reverb on that snare to give it a bit of open space. Yeah, a truly gorgeous track. I definitely do get some Hans Zimmer Interstellar vibes. Hans Zimmer's Interstellar track I absolutely love so much. I think it might, for me, it's probably the peak of what he's done in terms of his epic stuff. But because I found like Dunkirk was a really effective score after that, but I would never ever put it on and listen to it, which is not. Whereas Interstellar, I would listen to a couple of them. Not really like movie scores need to be something you'd sit down and listen to, but you know, some are just going to be more effective not being listenable on their own. Anyway, this track I would definitely listen to it on its own, and just imagine playing something with these kind of backgrounds and vistas, and it just being utterly incredible to look at and listen to at the same time. Great, the next track is from Kuniv, and you can't do a space theme episode without a piece from this wonderful space game, FTL. Man, the spacious percussion, the sort of glitchy technological bleeps, like bleeps and bloops in the most lovingly complimentary way I can describe it. It's so warm too. There's another part that comes after this. It just gets warmer, and it's so like gentle and ambient. And this game can be kind of punishing because you're designed to lose a lot of times constantly till you figure out how to win and until you get the upgrades. One of the few roguelikes I've really enjoyed. I played this game a shit ton when I was on the cruise ship. It was one of the few games I could get into at the time, and I didn't really have many games with me. I remember trying to play Final Fantasy VI at the time, and it was just too much going on, too much travel, too much music, too much people. This, though, I could sit down at lunch and I could just cruise space, answer some tough sci-fi challenging questions with lots of consequence, and be a captain. It's a great Star Trek game. Probably one of the best Star Trek games ever made, and a fantastic choice. What did you guys have to say about it? Drift through space to this track? Yeah, drift to my death. Very tranquil and homey, yet very lonely. Wonderful, wonderful track. Thank you for picking that one. Gunif. Alright, next is from Siflon. You know, Siflon loves his Stellaris. This is the main theme from Stellaris. Nemesis. Wow, that opening bit there is extremely reminiscent of Hans Zimmer. Speaking of Hans Zimmer's theme to Batman, this part is its own original thing, so let's listen to this a bit. Looks like a really fun, looks like a nice looking space sim. Sometimes these space sim games, not space sim, but sort of these like 4X space leader of space sim games can look like you're just playing a spreadsheet, like playing Microsoft Space Excel. But Stellaris has always had sort of a cool vibe about it. Big pounding drums, really epic. You couldn't listen to this for too much. I mean, it would get you hyped while you're installing the game or setting up your settings or choosing the game you're going to play. But once you get into it, I'd hope that it would calm down a bit. But this is the main theme, so it does its job perfectly well. Nice hybrid of orchestra and electronica. Pretty well. All right, let's do Prince's second track. This is SpongeBob, Creature from the Krusty Krab. That's it. SpongeBob SquarePants, Creature from the Krusty Krab, Meteor Mania. Is this going to be spacey or just have a spacey name? So this plays when, well, let's put it back on again. This plays when Patrick is protecting an alien space station from getting destroyed by asteroids. From a minigame where you're stationary and shooting at incoming targets. That's some, like, fun, retro, throwback, space rock. Sort of like a rock fusion. I really like that lead instrument. I think that feels great. Feels kind of like a retro, kind of calls back images of people playing Space Invaders and asteroids in the arcade. I think it's really tastefully done. Really nice. Just a fun little track. Prince always picks fun ones. Alright, we're snaking back. Speaking of old arcade games, to Cephalon. This is Valkyrie Profile Mission to the Deep Space. Not Deep Space. The. Man, that is pounding. What system is that on? PlayStation? Because it sounds like that beefed up Super Nintendo style. Like they're going for the sounds you'd make on a Super Nintendo. Just like dripping and more spacey reverb. Kind of rocking, but like super fusiony in the way that they kind of do the basses and the drums. Really challenging, kind of jazzy. So like jazzy heavy rock. Very proggy. I like the way that when they go into that halftime, they really start drawing out those synth pad chords. It's nice. Definitely feels like it's from the PlayStation 1 era of dark RPGs. Pretty cool. I always wish I was more into RPGs at the time of the first PlayStation. I feel like there's a whole world I really would have enjoyed getting into when I was playing it. Kids today are so lucky that they just have access to so many more games. It was this crapshoot when I was growing up of what game do you get? And do you even know if it's good or not? And can your parents find it when they go to the store? You might end up like me and get stuck with Street Racer and Wing Commander and not get Final Fantasy VII, yeah, and you would have had more time to play. You would have loved all the padding and how long they are. And especially because, like, PlayStation just took what the Super Nintendo did so well with JRPGs and just BAM! Stretch it open. And Kunif said some of the best games you ever played are just because your parents got them randomly. Yeah, I mean, I just think of, like, the titles I spent so much time playing. E-SWAT. Exo Squad for the Genesis. Cyborg Justice are like games I've never seen on a list of the greatest 16-bit games to go back and play. Because they weren't. They were just okay. They were passable. Random rentals, random purchases. You just had to have a good eye. That's why the covers were so nicely done usually. Oh well, we can now go back and play them all. But it's not the same, is it? Great song, Valkyrie Profile. Alright, next up is from Rudy. Nope. Yes, it is. It is from Rudy. Colony Wars Vengeance. Speaking of PlayStation games This is called The Beauty of Space. Oh, fuck yeah. Wow, what a nice track. Nice and slow. Very, very like heavy. That percussion, like a heartbeat. And kind of a yearning, beautiful melody. Again, like you could actually hear this in Echo the Dolphin. Yeah, that's a good shout there, Chris. I said that because you're British. Or like this almost again sounds like it's from a PlayStation 1 JRPG. This is a PlayStation 1 game. They had such nice lighting effects. This was a Psygnosis' calling card. And it was one of the few... And it seems crazy that there's not more space jet fighting games because TIE Fighter was so popular and X-Wing. Of course, Star Wars is really popular, but it just seems like such an obvious choice. People want to fly around and shoot things, and it's something you can handle so well. And now that VR is here, you think they're going to do that a hell of a lot more, but we'll see. It just seems like... There's actually... there was one for the PC... That was kind of a callback to TIE Fighter. It was really weird, though, because you were always on a time limit. You had to do the missions in, like, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I forget what it was called, but it's a pretty intense game. Star Wars Squadrons does a pretty good job of updating that TIE Fighter style. The story is here or there. There's some good moments in the story. I find all the Imperial stuff is really good. And the Rebel stuff is, like, really, really cheesy, but I guess meant for kids. That's what I always default to. Anyway, speaking of classic spacey franchises, this next one is chosen by Claudio. This is StarCraft, Protoss Theme 1. Protoss. I think that that first piece works so well because they are very powerful, but they're different from humans. I mean, the Zerg are just seem like total enemies because they're insects, aliens, you know, they're creepy crawlies. But at least the Zerg seem like something we've seen on our planet, whereas the Protoss felt like they had a whole other kind of culture, and their shapes were different, and the way they sort of operated were different. They seemed scary because they were so much more advanced than the humans. And I think that first piece is almost like your fear of them, and then this second half of it is like an acceptance and a learning of them, and maybe just controlling them. It's interesting how Blizzard first initially approached, who is it? Games Workshop, and they said, we want to make a strategy game based on Warhammer 40k. We love your Eldar, who would become the Protoss. We love your Tyranid, which were just rip-offs of Aliens from the movie Alien and Alien. And we like your Space Marines, which are just Space Marines. And Games Workshop went against the idea, and of course StarCraft became one of the most popular video game franchises in the history of the fucking universe, and all they did was just change the names, change up a few things. Biggest mistake Games Workshop probably ever made, although they're still doing fine, but man. And then after that they went on to give away their license to anyone that asked. There's so many games would come out, and I would just think, it wasn't until I played Total War where I thought, this should be Warhammer. Epic scale, moving big units around. So, yeah, it all worked out. If they weren't comfortable with it, who knows? Maybe Games Workshop, when they were involved, they would have screwed it up somehow, right? Never know. Great theme, great games. All right, we are back down to Chris. This is from Wolfenstein's New Order. Der Monde. Music by Michael John Gordon. I got excited. I thought it was Michael Giacchino. But by the time this game came out, he was far moved on to gigantic movie soundtracks. It's a builder. Very impressive drone, and sort of like an air raid siren in behind it the whole time, just gradually going up and up and up and up. So this happens when you get to the moon, I guess? Definitely has a spacey feel in the way that it's. To me, it's the beeping, almost like what would you call it? Like a Morse code? Not a Morse code, like sonar. So it's got that kind of like radar that is reaching out to something that you're not supposed to be in, the way sonar would be in water or air. And then you've also got this like steady drone underneath, like space engines, or it definitely makes everything around it feel really black, but then there's like a power there. Very dreadful. Very terrible. The Moon. Wolfenstein. From Chris. We're going to play another Chris one as we snake back up with... This is from Pac-Man World. Alright, this is probably going to sound a little different. Far Out, this track is called. Ooh. Actually a pretty nice track, and actually the game looks pretty decent. I was listening to the Super Mercado Brothers episode from 1995, which is great because it covers, there were NES tracks released that year, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Virtual Boy, Sega Saturn, PlayStation, PC, obviously, arcade, regular Game Boy, all kinds of stuff. And they had mentioned that you can always hear from these MIDI samples in video games, like what year that's from. And this definitely sounds like it's from the PlayStation 1 era. Nice, though, and nicely implemented, especially for the time, but you can just hear the difference. There's so many nice, like, warm, like, there's those kind of cold, really compressed, really fake MIDI strings, but all the stuff below it is just, like, warm and nice and really playful melody. Yeah, it's exactly. The track doesn't do very much, but it's great. And actually, the game itself sort of looks like, I mean, Jesus, it almost looks like a better version of 3D Sonic than 3D Sonic was. Very spacey, very nice. Pac-Man World. That was a nice back-to-back. All right, we're going back to Ambiance. This is chosen by Claudio. This is from Metroid Prime 1, Planet Talon 4. Time to get goopy. It's nice. It's the original Metroid theme, but just sort of slowed down and made more epic and made more GameCube-y. Pretty nice. Man, like every good Metroid track really makes you feel unwelcome. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think it's why I don't usually like to feel uncomfortable. And that's why I've generally not really liked the Metroid games. I love that they exist. I like watching other people play them. I personally don't really like them all that much because it's a lot of backtracking and it's a lot of like feeling awful and puzzles, and it's for people that are stronger than me, that are stronger mentally, stronger gamers, and are better people than what I can do on. But I mean, the Metroid tracks are, God, they're just so unique and so full of wonder, and like such beautiful sound design. So many of the instruments in Metroid Prime tracks and the whole franchise it almost sounds like the music is made with sound effects, which really helps when you're exploring a brand new place that's alien, where all the implementation, the instrumentation and the tracks feel like they could be coming from the environment because everything does sound like a sound effect. It's quite nice. All right, this next one is from Rudy, and this is from Super Mario Galaxy. This is Boy Bass. Boy as in the buoy. Make a Booyah Bass from Boy Bass. Super Mario Galaxy, that footage was from actually Super Mario Galaxy 2, which I think is far superior and was not included in the Mario collection. Cheap bastard Nintendo, you sons of bitches. Who do you think you are? Anyways, gorgeous track. Galaxy is such wonderful music, and definitely I agree, Chris, that it does feel full circle back to the first track of that kind of like regalness of space and wonder, but having like a commanding march towards it. What makes it sound spacey? Sometimes it's just a little pieces of texture. That sort of theremin melody there. Okay, it wants to start over. Yeah, just like sometimes a few tracks and kind of an overall vibe with it. But yeah. Okay, that was Super Mario Galaxy's Booyah Bass. Booyah, 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 booyah. Next up is from Cephalon. This is from Super R-Type Counterattack 91. I think it's going to be rocking. Ooh. Orchestra hits. Nice track. Very Super Nintendo sounding with the ultra compressed samples. But it was working pretty well for, you know... Super Nintendo sometimes struggle to do the rock stuff and the really quick sounding things, but I think they really accomplished that pretty well. That kind of like dancey, galloping bass. Pretty fantastic. Really kind of like spacey movements. I love that orchestra, which is such an unwieldy instrument to use, but works in this case. I think it just works for like it being kind of spacey, being kind of bombastic. Definitely sounds like you're galloping through space. That you're the one ship that's going to save the motherfucking day. Save the motherfucking universe. Save all the motherfuckers out there. All right. Let's continue on and clean up some of these ones here. How about the main theme from Samarost 3? What an amazing piece. Probably one of the best tracks of the week, I'd have to say. And then it grows to this. You know what's nice about this is that a lot of the kind of underlying stuff, the bass and the percussion, feels very kind of like spacey and futuristic. And then over top of it, you got these instruments that sound organic. They're sort of like wind instruments or things kind of rattling, like they are sort of like primitive tribal kind of instruments, but they have a kind of a weird sound to them, like you would encounter maybe on a different planet. And like you've visited different primitive people on a different planet, in a different world, and you're hearing their form of traditional tribal instruments. So perfect sound design, emotional composition, one of the coolest tracks I've heard all week. That's nice. Wow. It hurts to turn it off, but we got to keep going. Let's try another Ratchet and Clank track. Second from Chris. This is Albani Gemini. Wow. You know, if I didn't know any better, if you just showed me the tracks without the visuals, and you had me guess out of all of them, you know, like what game is this one from and which one's Ratchet, I would not have guessed that this was Ratchet and Clank. That actually definitely, this one has like the most kind of like deep and introspective yet expansive, most kind of spacey ambiance out of almost all of them. And it's on the game that I thought would have the most kind of like bouncy, you know, keep it maybe like have a few bleeps and blops to make it sound kind of spacey, but this one really commits to the space vibe. I think this sounds more spacey than the bloody Stellaris main theme. So way to go, whoever made this. Actually, it did say the composer, and that was David Bergode. David Bergode, I don't know. Looks French. And our final couple tracks we've got here. Let's see. We got one from Kuniv, Chasing the Light. From Gemini. Is this from a game? Hope so. Wait a second. Is this from a game? Gemini, original soundtrack. Okay. Let's give it a try. Chasing the Light by Tony Yan from Gemini. A Journey of 2 Stars. A game on mobile. 45 minutes. Getting rave reviews from our chatman Kudiv. Well, I'm glad we could fit it in. Alright, if you're watching the VOD, high quality VOD on YouTube, well then we'll be back Wednesday. Every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. These are uploaded later on Wednesday. It takes time to upload this stuff. But you can participate. If you don't know how, you just join our Discord. There'll be a link in the video. If there ain't a link there, reach out to us on Facebook. We'll get you into the Discord. And yeah, it's going to end here. And then if you're watching on Twitch, I guess we'll pick next week. Bye, YouTube. Track of the week, I would say, was... Can't remember which one it was, but I loved it so very, very much. What the hell was it called? Wasn't FTO. Wasn't Valkyrie Profile. Was Samurai's 3 main theme. That's it. That's the one. Yeah, that was killer. That was a beautiful track. All right.